Special morning, special show, special guest. Good morning, everyone, on a Saturday, the Saturday before Easter. It's April the 4th, 2026. Knock that guy's voice off. Saturday morning, sunny 64. Tomorrow, 70. And on Monday, it will be 67 degrees. Jonathan, introduce our guest.
Yeah, we have been so looking forward to this, especially me. And, you know, some voices don't call games. They call and they define eras. And if you grew up anywhere in the Midwest, especially Southern Ohio, you didn't just listen to the Cincinnati Reds. You listened to Marty Brennaman. 46 seasons.
Wow.
So let that sink in. 46 seasons. With
same radio
teams,
station.
Same radio station, Cincinnati Reds. That's not just a career. That is a front row seat to history. Marty had the best seat in the house, and he called it all.
Brother man.
And through it all, one voice. And this is what I love about Marty. Unvarnished, opinionated, no sugarcoating, no corporate polish. We'll get into that later. Just honest. Call it like it is. And when the Reds won, you knew what you were going to hear.
I got to tell you, Marty, we've never spoken before, but I am really on your side. Cut one if you would.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. Jonathan's prejudiced because he and I go back a long way. So I appreciate the nice things, Jonathan, you said. And, people said, why'd you quit? I said, damn, 46 years is long enough to do anything. I mean, so I had a great career. I was smart enough when I had the opportunities of leaving and going to other ball clubs to stay here. And all of that had to do with how much I love this city and this part of Ohio and this part of the country. And, it just worked out perfectly for me. If I had to go back and have the opportunity of changing anything, I wouldn't change a thing. No.
Well, and Marty, we're so glad you didn't go to other clubs because that was my first introduction to you. When my father retired from the Navy after 20 years, we moved to that small town, Eaton, Ohio, and the Reds had just lost to the Baltimore Orioles when Sparky said the Orioles didn't beat us, Brooks Robinson beat us. Then we get rid of Lee May, and we get a bunch of players from the Astros and some little short ball player named Joe Morgan. And then Al Michaels left. Al Michaels went to the Giants and then the ABC, and then he called some hockey game that was pretty big. And we're like, who in the world is going to replace Al Michaels? And, Marty, it took like one or two games, and we were saying, Al who? This guy's the real deal.
Well, I was fortunate because, as a matter of fact, when Al elected to leave and go to the San Francisco Giants, and it was the combination of things, obviously more money to begin with, but Al was born in New York, but raised in Los Angeles, and he was a West Coast guy, wanted to get back there. Obviously, the Dodger job was not open with Scully and those folks, and so he took the Giants job. And I was in the midst of doing an ABA basketball season.
Right.
Traveling all over the country and coming into Denver to play the Rockets. And I didn't even know that Al had decided to leave. And the general manager of our club, and I did AAA ball in Norfolk for 3 years, and the general manager of that team happened to just accidentally run into Dick Wagner, who was at that time the Reds' assistant general manager, at the winter meetings in Houston. And in the course of their conversation about nothing and about everything, Dick mentioned the fact that they were looking for a broadcaster because Al was going to the Giants. And my guy, Dave Rosenfield, God rest his soul, said, I got a guy who does my games that I think is pretty good. And Dick gave him the obligatory response, tell him to send us the tape. So
what was it like when you got What was it like when you got the call to go to the big show? What was that like?
Well, I was time went by after I sent them a tape, and they called me one night and said, we'd like to bring you into Cincinnati for an interview. And I said, okay. So I had to do a game against the Indiana Pacers on a Saturday night in January. And so I came into Cincinnati, was here for 2 nights, and before I left to go to Indianapolis, which is only about 2 hours, they offered me the job.
Wow.
And I went back to Virginia Beach where I was living and talked to my wife, and I called him on a Sunday afternoon and said I'll take the job.
Did you? This is Peter Marty. As an old radio guy, man, it's like I'm talking to the moon. I'm talking to the legend. Did you do any other format besides sports?
Well, I did, yes. But in television, when I went to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill and majored in communications, they've got a great broadcast school. And when I got out of school, I was married and had 2 kids. I had 2 kids born in Chapel Hill while I was in school. And I couldn't find a sports job, but I did get a news job at an ABC affiliate in High Point, North Carolina. And I worked there for 5 months, and then all of a sudden this radio job opened in Salisbury, North Carolina, a 1,000-watt radio station.
There you go.
To give me the opportunity of doing small college football and basketball, American Legion baseball, and high school football and basketball. And I took the job, and it was the best thing I ever did.
I'm not in your league, but there has to be a part of you genetically that I relate to, and I call it willing to push all the chips into the center. And I mean, do you sense that in yourself?
Yeah, because I would have. Yes, I did. Because when I got out of Carolina, and I've had a little experience working on the Carolina Basketball Network while I was my senior year, and I knew I wanted to be a play-by-play guy. I didn't want to be a guy that did sports at 6 and 11 every night. Yep. I wanted to be out. I wanted to broadcast the games, and I was all in on that. I mean, I never even considered any other job but that.
And if you think, because I'm gearing up to speak with you today, how many major league teams were there at the time when you got in?
Oh God, that's a good question. Well, with no Arizona, I got to deduct to figure out how many there. Well, we got 30 now.
Yeah.
We had 28.
Yeah.
I think. We had 28.
So and the Reds were in the West. Yeah, that was pretty wild.
National League West. Well, that's right.
But that meant, in your mind, and I relate to some of this, that was how many jobs there were. I mean,
there were. It's right.
Yeah.
And so. And it's just a situation that, worked out for me, and quite honestly, I love basketball so much that. I only applied for the job as a courtesy to the man who recommended me. I mean, I was wrapped up in doing ABA basketball and loved it, and I only applied because I thought enough of my work as a baseball broadcaster to recommend me to a big league club.
Who did you look up to when you were a young guy coming in?
Well, I was born and raised in Virginia, and I used to listen to the old Washington Senators.
Oh, man.
They had a broadcaster named John McClain. I'd listen to him. Baltimore had Chuck Thompson and Bill O'Donnell, Bob Prince and Jim
Woods. Jim Woods.
Jim Woods, yeah. I used to listen to them religiously. And Prince, once I got to the big leagues, Bob Prince was a guy who took more time with me to spell out the do's and don'ts of a young big league broadcaster than anybody.
I grew up with Prince, listening to Prince.
Well, you know how good he was. I thought he was spectacular.
I get to write a column here, and I wrote a column about growing up in you and our time frame, and I talked about this earlier, but no one had air conditioning, or at least nobody I knew. And remember the screens that you could elongate, you could make them bigger, wider? And everybody, for some reason, people put the radios in the windows. Why? I don't know. But I worked in a pool room when I was a kid, and walking home, because the Pirates played a lot of day games, and walking home, I could listen to the ball games walking home. I mean, walking down the alley because the radios were on.
Right. Wow. Same way it was in Cincinnati. That's one of the first things they told me when I got the job. Yeah. You can pick any neighborhood in greater Cincinnati and walk down the street. You won't miss a pitch.
What's really fun about talking with Marty right now, because Marty, I've known you through so many different stages of my life. I remember the Reds caravans where you would come to Eaton in that small little bank, and you'd bring ball players, and we'd get in line and we'd get autographs. Then I was at a sports station on campus and you and Joe would come. And I had long hair, and I was complaining to you about the Reds not allowing facial hair. And you're like, well, dude, brother, I can see the long hair you've got. You can do whatever you want, but that's not the Cincinnati Reds. And it goes back to those days. And then a Reds caravan, Marty, where you and I are standing there watching the TV during the Challenger tragedy, watching that unfold. I actually used to watch baseball games on the radio and turn the sound down and broadcast it into my tape player, because that was the inspiration that you had for me. And then to be able to go full circle like this, and I was sharing off the air with Peter how when I got into play-by-play basketball, your son Tom was my color analyst.
That's amazing. It really truly is.
Well, the first commercial break we had, I took my headphones off, and I looked at Tom and I said, dude, I go, you stink. And he goes, what? What's going on? I go, you sound just like your dad.
Wow.
And you knew he had not just the timbre, but he had the talent. And what a career he's had as well.
Marty, this is Peter Boyles. I'm never going to get this chance again, so I'm going to mark for you. Can I ask you about 3 or 4 different people and get your thoughts? Hank Aaron.
Well, that's my next cue.
It's interesting that you bring his name up, Peter. What's the date of today? April 4th?
Yep.
This is the anniversary of my first broadcast.
No.
When Aaron hit home run number 714.
Can we run clip 2 real quick? Because this was Marty's very first ball game with the Reds, and he got to do this.
Here we go.
That ball is gone. A home run. Unbelievable. Henry Aaron has just tied Babe Ruth's home run record of 714.
Wow.
That's his first game out of the gate.
Yeah, 4 batters in. It was 4 batters in.
Well, and if we remember, the Braves did not want to play him that series. They wanted him to do it at home, and Bowie Kuhn made him at least play 1 game. Is that correct?
No. Well, Kuhn said, if they'd have had their way, he would not have played. Period. Mm-hmm. And Boyd Kuhn said he's got to play 1 game complete. Then he's got to start a second game, and if you want to take him out after 1 at bat, that's fine. And that's what they were forced to do. And, they were going to go home after that series on a Friday night, and their home opener was against the Dodgers, and obviously they wanted him to hit the home run at Fulton County Stadium, which he did, the record breaker. But it worked out, and he hits it off Jack Billingham in the first inning with 2 men on base, lined one over the left field wall for a home run. It's interesting because I got a text message from one of the Atlanta broadcasters today, and I don't know anything about it. I don't remember anniversaries. If he had not texted me today, I would not have remembered this was the date. Wow. And he texted me and said, this is a day. If you have any thoughts or things that might have occurred, if you could just type them out and send them to me, I'd appreciate it, which I did. And one of the things that I included was the fact that, and I'm quoting now, I'll go to my grave believing in my heart that Henry Aaron was the all-time home run king because he did it the right way.
That's right.
And Barry Bonds did not, he did. So as far as people say who's the all-time home run king, I say it's Henry Aaron. Yeah.
What was he like, Marty?
I guess born out of all the stuff that he had to go through when he was approaching Ruth's record. I mean, it was.
I know.
A lot of it was just plain tragic. The death threats, and I think he was a little. He could be standoffish. I don't know that he ever got over the lack of trust that he might have had in our race. But I thought he was one of the classiest athletes I'd ever met.
So good to hear.
He carried himself very well. He did so much for the city of Atlanta, and I was just a big fan.
That's the next one is like the polar opposite, but I'm drawn to him. Pete Rose. I got to ask you about Pete.
Well,
Rose.
I'm very prejudiced in commenting about Pete because the two guys that I was closest to while they were playing, and I maintained the closeness throughout their lives, even after many years after they retired, were Pete and Joe Morgan.
There you go.
And Pete was a guy that did it all did to himself.
Yes.
Somebody said once, nobody can do more damage to you than you can do.
Well said.
And he was a poster boy for that statement.
Yeah.
Did he?
And you back that up, Marty, because I believe in your 2000 Baseball Hall of Fame induction, you actually took opportunity to defend Pete Rose and being in the Hall of Fame.
And
I did, and a funny story about that, Jonathan. The day before the induction ceremonies, which were on a Sunday, they had a big deal at the hotel Otesaga, which is a beautiful hotel right on the Lake Otesaga in Cooperstown, where everybody stays if they can get in there. And Johnny Bench came to me and said, "Now don't shoot the messenger," but he said Ralph Kiner said that if he and Bob Feller were both going to get up and walk off the stage if you mentioned Pete Rose's name. And I said, you can go back and tell them to kiss my butt. I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. And if they want to get up and walk off, then walk off. I don't care. And so I did. And the mistake I made was that I told somebody that I was going to have a comment about Pete. The year before, Mike Schmidt had talked for 4 minutes about what a crime it was that Pete was not in the Hall of Fame.
Agreed.
And they didn't want that to happen again. All I did was mention Pete's name and the fact that I felt like he should be in the Hall, and I did it. I went ahead and did what I wanted to do, and nobody walked off the stage, and I got to do what I felt like I needed to do to make a point. And the thing is, people say that Pete Rose is the greatest hitter who ever lived, and they'd say that to him. And he would say, no, you're wrong there. He said, I'm not the greatest hitter that's ever lived. I'm just a guy that had more hits than anybody else.
There you go.
And he would correct him. He never changed his personality through all the years. I talked to him 3 days before he died, and he just had a tragic ending to his life, and all of which he brought upon himself.
Did you ever meet his father? Was his father around?
I never did. No, his dad had passed away before I got here.
Well, before we go to the break real quick, let's run clip number 3, because this was an electric night in Riverfront Stadium.
He levels the bat a couple of times. Shao kicks and he fires. Rose swings.
There it is. Get out.
Get out.
All right.
That's a call.
Hit number 4192. A line drive single into left center field. A clean base hit.
Oh, Marty.
And it is pandemonium here at Riverfront Stadium.
Oh, Marty.
I always love that pandemonium. Hearing Marty call it and hearing Joe in the background yelling for the ball to get down in left center.
Yeah.
But when you reflect on that, Marty, what comes to mind? What do you feel?
Well, I was so fortunate to have some big calls. I mean, his hit, Tom Browning's perfect game, 2 no-hitters by Homer Bailey, Tom Seaver's only no-hitter.
Yeah.
And I the only thing I ever prayed to God for was just let me make the call and not stumble and fumble all over my words. And I was very fortunate that of all the calls I had, I never had that problem.
Well, we've got.
And I never planned anything.
That's what I love. It came from your heart, and it came from the excitement of you witnessing what you're witnessing. And we've got those cuts when we come back after the break.
There's a prayer. I'll ask you if you ever said it to yourself when we come back. Hang on, everyone. Okay. Marty Brennaman is our guest, 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. Hang on. Stay here.
Your 710 5-day forecast. Going to have gorgeous sunny skies for this Saturday in the Denver Metro. Comfortable temps in the lower 60s with clear skies tonight and lows around the upper 30s. For Easter Sunday, we'll start warming into the upper 60s. Sunny skies finishing up the holiday weekend with lows upper 30s, low 40s Sunday night, skies clear. Getting back to work Monday, sunny upper 60s, lower and mid 70s Tuesday and Wednesday. By the afternoon and evening, we'll start to see some rain showers move back to the region. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
What a morning, everyone. Thank you. I'm Peter Boyles, on the air everywhere. 710 KNUS, 64 the high, 70 Sunday, 67 Monday. I'm in awe of what we're listening to. Quickly tell you about David Ellison. You've heard me talking about taking valuables to David, and this is, of course, the Easter weekend, gift giving sometimes. You can get a fortune in cash to secure an appraisal from David for all the valuables that you have tucked away in your home. It is still true. Share the other reasons to see David, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, or a silver tea set. See David Ellis for all the most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, the group, just the right item, just the right price for special people that mean the most to you. Antique watches, emerald pendants, gold necklaces, diamond rings. This trusted jeweler has been buying precious metals and antiques here in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces your loved ones will treasure. See the man. He's there now. Visit David Ellis Jewelers and see for yourself the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. Explore davidellisjewelry.com, or call my friend David at 303-322-8779. Tell David that I sent you. 3rd and Clayton, Cherry Creek, davidellisjewelry.com, 303-322-8779. This is just an incredible show. Jonathan, tell the folks again who's with us.
Yeah, we're so fortunate. I've been looking forward to this for so long. We have Marty Brennaman, Hall of Fame broadcaster, 46 years, the voice of the Cincinnati Reds. And right before the break, Marty, you mentioned Tom Seaver and Tom Browning's perfect game. We've got those two calls. We'll play them back-to-back and get your thoughts on them.
Tom Seaver now a strike away from his first major league no-hitter. The Reds leading at 4-0 in the 9th inning. Hendrick puts a head of the bat on the plate. Werner hangs a sign. Seaver with a pause, the check and the pitch. He bounces to first base. Dreesen has it. He goes to the bag, and Seaver's got it. Tom Seaver has pitched his first major league no-hitter.
And from a no-hitter to a perfect game by Tom Browning.
If you would, hit the other one.
He is ready for the 2-2 to Woodson, and here it comes. And it is swung out and missed. And Tom Browning has pitched a perfect game. 27 outs in a row, and he is being mobbed by his teammates just to the third base side of the mound. He no-hits the Los Angeles Dodgers 1-0 and throws the first perfect game in the long and legendary history of this great Cincinnati Reds baseball franchise.
Man, I have got goosebumps. Marty, what are your thoughts looking back on those two historic moments?
Well, in Seaver's case, Tom did most of his Hall of Fame success was with the New York Mets, and he spent, 3 or 4 seasons with us. And I got a chance to really know him well. And, he 5 times he went to the 9th inning with no hitters. And all 5 times he lost it in the 9th. And I felt like it would have been a real shame had he gone into the Baseball Hall of Fame without ever having pitched one. So I was almost as thrilled for him as he was for himself to do what he did. And in Browning's case, perfect games don't fall off trees.
No, sir.
And we go through inning after inning after inning, and we reached the 7th inning, and I kept talking about it. I didn't believe in that superstition. You don't talk about it. No, I don't. Yeah. I felt like I had a responsibility for people who were tuning in late, maybe, and being able to understand what the heck was going on. And then we get through the 7th, and we go to the 8th inning, and I could hardly keep my scorebook. My hand shook so bad because I realized, what was up. And thank God we got through it, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. God bless his soul. He was the kind of pitcher where you would never have expected that he would have been able to sustain his stuff long enough to do what he did, because he was not a power pitcher. He simply knew how to pitch. He knew how to set hitters up and move the ball in and out and up and down, and he had a screwball that was a big pitch for him. And I was just happy as a Dickens that he got the perfect game. And it was a game that was delayed for over 3 hours to begin with because of rain. And it was supposed to start at I think 7:10 or something. Ended up getting underway like at 20 minutes after 10. And the game was played in under 2 hours. Tim Belcher was the guy who pitched for the Dodgers, and Belcher gave up 1 run, and that was an unearned run, and he went the distance. So it was the ultimate pitching duel, and thank God Browning got what he went out to get.
I got to ask you, Marty, it's Peter again. We were talking about this earlier as well. Is baseball a radio game?
I think it'll always be a radio game, Peter. Obviously, I don't know that. Quite honestly, I don't think it has the impact on the public today like it used to, because virtually every game for every team is on television now.
Yes.
And so, back when I came, In '74, the Reds were on an NBC affiliate, WLWT here in Cincinnati, and they TV 25 games.
Yeah.
You know, that was the sum total. And radio was this was and still is to some extent a radio town, and there are only a handful of them. Even back when I came, there were not that many teams that could be called radio towns, but Cincinnati, thank God, was.
No, it really. That's why. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever see it again because of the impact that television has made, and I'm thankful that I came when I did, when radio was still king.
I was told that that's why they chose WKRP in Cincinnati, was because we were in that groove of Cincinnati Reds, Pittsburgh Pirates, and you guys were the enemy, and we were kids. The Pittsburgh fans hated the Reds because
especially during the Big Red Machine years.
Well, no, before when Kluzewski and those guys came.
Back in the 50s,
Oh man.
Well, and what you were just saying, Peter and Marty, is because I always looked at baseball, especially with you and Marty, you and Joe. It was a companion sport. You were always there. You were in the radio, in our car. You were in the garage with us. And when I was in the Army down in the 82nd Airborne, on a rainy night, we could pick up WLW, and you were like a slice of home for us back in those days. And hearing the crack of the bat and Joe laughing, that was a companion sport that we knew we were listening to something that meant something. You know, it was deep. And granted, it helped. We had some really good teams most of those years.
It meant a lot.
Hey, Marty, tell us a little, before we play the clip, tell us a little bit about you calling Ken Griffey's 500th home run.
Well, it's interesting. People ask me constantly, what were your favorite calls? And they would assume that amongst whatever I said, it would be what we've just had. Aaron's run, Pete's record-breaking hit, Browning's perfect game, blah, blah, blah. Ken Griffey Jr.'s 500th home run is one of my two favorite calls. It was in St. Louis. It was on Father's Day. Ken Sr. was there. Junior's family was there. It was just a perfect setting. The only thing better would have been had it been at home rather than on the road. But I love the call. Again, it was not anything that I planned. I was very proud of it. And I think those of us who are in play-by-play are more often than not our fiercest critics. We know when we have a good call. We also know when we screw something up.
Sure.
And thank God I was very happy with that particular call.
A great setup, and here it is.
Against Matt Morris in his career, and officially counting today is 2 for 11 against the Cardinals right-handed. The pitch. And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Wow.
A high drive into the lower deck and right. Number 30 touches them all, and boy, what a Father's Day gift for senior.
That is outstanding.
The add-on. That's what makes Marty.
Yep.
That add-on, a gift for
Thank you.
to
Thank
say
you.
that.
Yeah. Hey, Marty, let's talk about a couple friends here. One of mine and one of yours. I was friends with Frank Pastore. We're still dear friends with his wife, Gina, who is just an incredible, wonderful, courageous woman. Tell us a little bit about Frank Pastore.
You know, Frank he was with us in the late 70s, and he had an up and down career. He had great stuff. He knew how to pitch. He had success. He also had failure. He was a man, even then, he was a man of tremendous faith.
Yeah.
And I think that and the wonderful marriage he had with Gina sustained him through any of the down times that he had, a native Californian. And, Jonathan, you and I both know he rose to bigger and bigger fame as a conservative talk show host.
Yeah.
After he retired from baseball and before he was tragically killed riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, and he actually talked about it that night on the radio. He says, "You guys know I ride a bike. I could be killed tonight." And but it's not me. It's just my body. My soul goes up to be with the Lord. And sure enough, he was hit by a car and died about a month later. But also, it was that terrible hit off Steve Sachs in Dodger Stadium, of all places, that really began the slow, quick end of his career.
Yeah, it was. It would have been. It would have been nice to have seen him at his best throughout his entire career, because I think the numbers would have been a whole heck of a lot better than they actually were.
Marty, it's Peter. When I knew I was going to talk to you, I got to bring up Marge's shot.
Yeah.
Well, what was that like?
You know, I think you get a different opinion from me, Peter, because she was good to me.
I've heard she was good to lots of people.
Well, she was. I think in many cases she was a grossly misunderstood woman. But she never, not one time, when she owned the club, did she ever come in our radio booth. She never came in our booth.
Wow.
I was critical of her at times publicly. My wife and I used to take her out to dinner in the off season, and she'd take us to a terrible Italian restaurant that she thought was the best that God ever created. And she drank the worst vodka that God ever created, and I used to kid her, and I'd say it was just the three of us. It was my previous wife Sherry and me and Marge, and we'd go to dinner maybe 3 or 4 times during the off season, and I'd say to her, Marge, you know what you need? You need a very virile young man to take care of you. And she'd laugh and she'd say, "Oh, honey." I said, "Oh, honey, my ass. I'm dead serious, darling." I said, he would change your whole personality.
God,
I'd give her a hard time.
Yeah.
I just think that, she used words that you just didn't use then, and you don't use them now. But at the same time, she had a whole bunch of black folks that worked for her at her two car dealerships that would have killed for her because she was so good to them. She was just misunderstood and was condemned by Major League Baseball. And boy, when that happens, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done.
Well,
How much time do we have? How much time do we have?
Because we want to get to the big story, but I also want to.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can take it to the top of the hour if you want to.
That's awesome.
Love it. Thank you.
So much more to talk.
Okay.
So let's do cut 8 real quick, and let's talk about this friend of yours and a friend to everybody that ever listened to a Reds broadcast.
This is the old left-hander rounding third and heading for home. Good afternoon, everyone.
Boy, that just brings back good feelings. Tell us about Nuxie.
Well, it was a relationship made in heaven. When I came to this club, and replacing Al was not easy, or it turned out to be relatively easy because of the things that people like Joe and Sparky and then the big guys on the club, Perez and Bench and Rose and Morgan, they made it as easy for me as they possibly could, and I was always thankful for that. But nobody was better at it than Joe was. And the longer we went, the closer we got. And we worked together for 31 years. And of all the good things that have happened to me, awards and everything else, that's the thing I'm most proud of, because 31 years as a tandem equals the longest in Major League history.
Wow.
The only other 2 guys that worked together that long were, interestingly enough, Ben Scully and Jerry Doggett with the L.A. Dodgers.
Talk about names.
And Joe and I were just incredibly close. We had dinner on the road when the club was playing, if there was an afternoon game, and we just had an unbelievable. We knew each other so well that I could stop a sentence in the middle of it and he could finish it, and vice versa. And it was like 3 years in. I was downtown during Christmas time in downtown Cincinnati. I ran into the postmaster of the post office downtown, and we were talking. I said, "By the way, let me ask you a question. Aren't you all kind of stretching or breaking a federal rule or a law when I said, we get mail at the ballpark addressed to Marty and Joe, Cincinnati, Ohio."
Wow.
And he laughed and he said, "Yeah, we might be stretching it a bit," but he said, we know who Marty and Joe is, and we damn sure know where that mail has to be delivered.
That's saying something.
And at that point, I realized that maybe as a team we were doing something right.
We're coming right back. Marty stays with us. Jonathan, Peter, all together. Saturday, 7:10, KNUS. We're doing something right. Marty's staying. It's Saturday morning, April the 4th, 2026. I'm Peter Boyles and Jonathan and I together. And what a guest and what series of stories. And we both said to each other, he's going to stay.
Yeah, we're so happy, Marty. Thank you for sticking with us a little bit longer.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, hey, Marty, early on in your career, I mean, it's amazing with the Reds that your first game you called Hank Aaron's record-tying home run. It was shortly after that a Dave Concepcion walk-off hit where you came up with this line.
And this one belongs to the Reds.
There. I remember.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Perfect.
I wish I could tell you.
Yep.
It was spontaneous.
Yep.
And as I was driving back home after the game and reflecting back on the way it ended and what I said, and I said to myself, that might not be a bad way to end every game that they win, never dreaming that I would say it as many times as I did over the first 3 years that I was working here.
And now it's on that beautiful statue outside of Great American Ballpark.
It is, and Jonathan and Peter, the biggest mistake I made was not having it copyrighted.
There you go.
Of course.
Bob Prince.
I never even thought of it.
As a kid growing up on Prince, and Prince would tag out, "We had them all the way."
That's right.
If the Pirates came back from 13 down, Prince said they had them all the way.
Nah. And you only tweaked that one time, and that was after the 1990 World Series, and we've got that.
Lansford, good hitting Oakland third baseman, and Myers bringing it. And the pitch is hit in the air, foul, off first, Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
That was
that was wire to wire that year.
Marty.
Sure was. That's my favorite team of all time as far as the Reds are concerned. But more so than the Big Red Machine teams.
I'm going to ask you philosophical questions about the business and about your longevity and your skill set. Where do you think? I mean, we were talking earlier, but you were saying about praying, and it was Alan Shepard's prayer that I've asked a number of guys that actually were astronauts, and I think I'd lose my job if we did Alan Shepard's prayer on the air. But you ask yourself, where did this come from? Where inside of you that you could last all of these years and get paid to do what you would have done for free? I'm sure.
That's a great question, Peter, and I don't know how to respond to that. I only came close once to leaving, and that was an offer from the Boston Red Sox. And and I had chances to go to Boston and New York and Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and every time I got down to crunch time, it was always no. Boston, I came real close. The city and the love affair I had with the city overwhelmed anything else, because then I thought about living somewhere else, and I put a lot of stock in lifestyle and kids and how they would be in another city as opposed to here, and the city of Cincinnati just won out every time, and it was important to me. It really was.
With guys like you, and I hope, I spent time with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in Sturgis.
Right.
And it was one of those nights that was a private get-together, and the NASCAR guys were there and Hawaii Tropics girls, and you know the drill. And I had a way into talking to him at a friend that worked for his father. And we were talking, and it was like listening to you. And then about, an hour and a half in the conversation, he said, "Here's the secret." And I think it's you. He said, "We would do it for free, but they pay us a lot of money." And
it's true.
Thank you. 200 miles an hour on the wall at Talladega swapping paint. And he said,
"Yeah, for nothing."
For nothing.
And here's another guy. When Pete Rose came back to the Reds as player manager, I had the opportunity to interview Harry Carey, and he was like a kid in a candy store. And I've got this story, so Marty, you can tell me if it's true or not. It's like the fish that got away kind of story. There's a buddy of mine, Chuck, that visited a friend in Sarasota, and he goes, "Hey, Joe Nuxall lives next door to me." Chuck jumps up, grabs a six-pack, goes next door. Joe says, "I have no idea who you are, but you've got beer, come on in. And so he shared a story that evidently Joe and Harry got into a bet over whether Harry would ever sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" for the 7th inning stretch. Harry took him up on it, did it, and that's how the tradition started. Is that how you heard it?
No, I've never heard that story. But I'm not saying it's not true.
Yeah, sure.
I just feel like in 31 years and of all the trips that we made into Wrigley Field, that Joe would have told me that story.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to know. So I just say pass the cookies. And
yeah, that's right.
Well, Marty, what was his pitch? We had a discussion prior to you coming with us. What was Joe's pitch that was his money ball?
Well, the fastball as a pitcher, it's amazing because he was so wild. When he came, he pitched in a big league game when he was 15 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. And he threw hard, and he also had no idea where it was going. And he was able to conquer the wildness relatively early in his pro career and had a great career. I think he played in the big leagues like 15 years.
Yeah.
And it was a local guy, was born and raised in a suburb of Cincinnati, Hamilton, Ohio, and he was just iconic. People talk about Pete Rose and Oscar Robertson as being the two top sports icons. They couldn't hold a candle to Joe Nuxhall.
Yeah.
Not even because I never saw him nasty to a fan. He loved the fans. The fans loved him. He was just a wonderful, sweet man. And people just, even today, they talk about him in revered tones.
Icing on the cake.
Yeah,
because
he was
we're running out of time.
fantastic. Let's get to the meat of what we're doing here right now, because this has been so much fun.
Oh.
This made the news across the country. Just play this one clip. It's just a cut down of a moment that happened in Riverfront Stadium.
And the crowd, of course, obviously reacting to Randy Savage's presence in our radio booth. Of course, you got your arch enemy on the card tonight, too, Hulk Hogan and the $1 Million Man.
Absolutely. Hulk Hogan is the one person that, makes it a controversy who's number one. And I want to just prove that he's number two. That's all I want to do. Go down in history, past, present, and future, as the best that ever lived. Kind of like, I feel, Johnny Bench's favorite player of the Macho Man. He was a great catcher. Yeah. Well, I got you 4 front row tickets, Marty Brennaman, because I know that you'll call a spade a spade. Yeah, when I get up on that top rope, or I just want you to watch my back, just in case Hulk Hogan decides to come down through jealousy.
Randy will have you covered.
You don't have to worry about that, Macho. I'll be honest with you. This guy ain't going to get in his way.
He's not going to stand up for me.
Well, he'll root for you.
I'm on my own tonight.
No, I'll be with you. I'll be with you.
Joe Nuxhall will be with you.
I'll be with you. All right.
Right.
You got it.
Marty.
Tell us about that day, Marty.
It was unbelievable. Jonathan's the cause of that whole deal, Peter. Because my daughter, Ashley, who's now 40-some years old and had been married, I've got a kid, and she, I used to take her down to the Coliseum, which was right next door to Riverfront. Every time the WWE came into town. And Jonathan would call me on the phone. He said, "We're coming in such a date. Do you want tickets?" And I'd say yes. And graciously, he always left his tickets on the front row and would take us backstage to meet the wrestlers, who were all spectacular gentlemen. I mean, I tell people even today, you can't believe what good guys they were.
We got a minute, Marty. We got a minute.
Anyway, he said Hulk Hogan, and he said Randy Savage. You want him in the booth tonight, this afternoon for a day game? I said yeah. He showed up and looked like a mutant canary. He had yellow on from top to bottom. Thought he'd be there in a body shirt and jeans. He never broke character. I tried to get him to talk about his professional baseball career. He was Randy, the Macho Man Savage, the whole time. Was a sweet guy, and the stadium, he stood them on their ear when they realized he was there.
I remember Eric Davis doing a double bicep pose from the dugout.
That's right.
That Marge blew a gasket then.
Yeah, because it was not her idea.
Marty, Peter Boyles, I can't tell you what this hour has meant. Thank you very much for everything. You made the weekend. You made the year. Thank you.
Well, you're very kind, Peter. I enjoyed being on with you and Jonathan. If you ever need me, call me again.
I sure will. Thank you,
Thank you,
Marty.
brother.
More to come.
More to come. Barbara Kirkmeyer.